Welcome back. If you're new here, this channel is dedicated to honest, no-nonsense health information for adults over 60. The kind of stuff your doctor means to tell you, but runs out of time to explain during a 15-minute appointment. Today we are pulling back the curtain on sodium, table salt, that white crystalline powder sitting next to your pepper shaker, hiding inside your canned vegetables, buried in your deli meat, dissolved into your favorite condiments. Sodium chloride, the single most consumed kidney-damaging substance in the American diet, and the one almost nobody takes seriously until the damage is already creeping forward. Now, before you say, "Oh, I've heard this before, salt is bad," hold on, because what most people have heard is a watered-down, vague warning. What they haven't heard, what we are going to walk through together today, is exactly how sodium dismantles kidney function at the cellular level after age 60, why your aging kidneys handle it so much worse than they did at 40, which everyday foods contain shocking amounts you'd never guess, and the specific practical steps a nephrologist actually recommends to protect yourself starting today. This isn't a scare piece. This is a wake-up call wrapped in genuine care. So let's get into it. To understand why sodium becomes so dangerous as you get older, you need a quick picture of what your kidneys actually do all day long. Think of each kidney as a sophisticated filtration plant. Inside each one sit roughly 1 million tiny filtering units called nephrons. Each nephron contains a miniature net of blood vessels, a little cluster called a glomerulus, that sieves your blood, pulling out waste, balancing fluids, and regulating minerals. Every single day, your kidneys filter somewhere around 50 gallons of blood. That is an extraordinary workload for two organs each about the size of your fist. Here's the part most people never hear. After the age of 40, you begin losing nephrons, not because you're sick, simply because of time. By the time you reach 60, you may have already lost 20 to 25% of those filtering units. By 75, some estimates suggest you could be operating on half of what you started with. Your kidneys still work, they compensate beautifully for a while, but their margin for error shrinks with every passing year. Now imagine flooding that reduced, aging filtration system with excess sodium day after day, meal after meal, year after year. What happens? When sodium levels rise in your blood, your body holds onto extra water to dilute it. Blood volume increases, blood pressure climbs, and those remaining nephrons, the ones already working overtime to pick up the slack, now face even higher pressure forcing blood through their delicate filters. It is like turning a garden hose up to full blast and aiming it at a coffee filter. Over time, those filters scar, they thicken, they stop working properly. Protein starts leaking through into your urine, one of the earliest measurable signs of kidney damage. Waste products that should be leaving your body begin accumulating in your bloodstream instead. A nephrologist at Duke University described it this way to a room of medical residents. Sodium doesn't punch the kidneys. It leans on them, constantly, gently, until one day the structure gives. And the frustrating part? You won't feel it. Kidney damage from excess sodium is painless. There is no sharp warning, no dramatic symptom that sends you to the emergency room. It is silent, progressive, and cumulative. By the time blood work reveals elevated creatinine or reduced glomerular filtration rate, the numbers your doctor checks to measure kidney function, real structural damage has often been underway for years. That silence is exactly what makes this so dangerous for anyone over 60. Let's talk numbers for a moment because this is where most people get blindsided. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day for adults over 51, for anyone with high blood pressure, and for anyone with kidney concerns. 1,500 milligrams. That is roughly 2/3 of a teaspoon of table salt for the entire day. The average American adult consumes around 3,400 milligrams daily, more than double the recommended ceiling. Some estimates push that number even higher for men over 60 who eat out frequently or rely on processed and convenience foods. And here's the detail that catches people completely off guard. Only about 11% of your daily sodium comes from the salt shaker on your table. Just 11%. The vast, overwhelming majority, over 70%, comes from packaged, processed, and restaurant-prepared foods. Foods you might consider perfectly healthy. Foods you might think of as simple and wholesome. Let me give you some examples that tend to shock people. A single cup of canned chicken noodle soup, the kind you might heat up on a cold afternoon, the kind that feels gentle on the stomach, can contain over 800 milligrams of sodium, more than half of your entire daily budget in one bowl. 2 slices of standard white sandwich bread. Just the bread, nothing on it yet. Around 300 milligrams. A single tablespoon of soy sauce, over 900 milligrams, 1 tablespoon. 3 ounces of deli turkey from the counter at your grocery store, the kind you'd layer onto that bread, roughly 570 milligrams. A half-cup serving of cottage cheese, which many seniors eat for protein, nearly 400 milligrams. Frozen dinners marketed as balanced or wholesome meals for adults, routinely between 700 and 1500 milligrams per tray. Even something as innocent sounding as a glass of vegetable juice, that tall red can many people drink believing it's packed with vitamins, can deliver over 600 milligrams per 8-ounce glass. None of these foods taste aggressively salty. That is the trap. The sodium is engineered into the product during manufacturing, for preservation, for texture, for flavor enhancement, and by the time it reaches your tongue, your palate has long since adjusted. You don't register it as salty. You register it as normal, as the way food is supposed to taste. So when someone tells their doctor, "I don't add much salt to my food," they're usually being completely honest. The problem is that the salt already found them long before the meal hit the plate. Let's walk through the chain reaction, because understanding it makes the solution feel logical rather than like a punishment. Step 1. You eat a meal heavy in sodium. Within minutes, your small intestine absorbs that sodium directly into your bloodstream. Your blood sodium concentration ticks upward. Step 2. Your brain detects the shift. The hypothalamus, a small region deep in the brain that monitors fluid balance, triggers thirst and simultaneously signals your kidneys to retain water. You may feel thirsty, you may not. But either way, your kidneys obey. They pull water back from your urine and hold it in circulation. Step 3. Blood volume expands. More fluid in the same network of vessels means higher pressure against vessel walls. Your blood pressure rises. For someone already managing hypertension, and over 65% of American adults over 60 have high blood pressure, this adds fuel to a fire that was already burning. Step 4. That elevated pressure reaches the kidney's own blood supply. The glomeruli, those delicate filtration clusters, experience increased force. In a young, fully staffed kidney with 1 million healthy nephrons, the system absorbs this stress reasonably well. In an aging kidney already down 20, 30, maybe 40% of its nephrons, the remaining units bear a disproportionate load. Pressure per nephron climbs considerably. Step 5. Under sustained pressure, the walls of the glomerular capillaries begin to thicken and stiffen. Scar tissue forms, a process called glomerulosclerosis. Filtering efficiency drops. Protein molecules, which are supposed to stay in your blood, begin slipping through damaged filters into your urine. This condition, called proteinuria, is both a sign of existing kidney damage and an accelerator of further damage. It creates a vicious feedback loop. Step 6. As more nephrons scar and fail, the surviving ones work even harder, face even more pressure, and eventually scar and fail themselves. Kidney function declines in a slow, relentless curve. If nothing changes, this trajectory leads toward chronic kidney disease, a condition currently affecting over 37 million American adults, many of whom have no idea they have it, and sodium sat at the starting line of every single step. One nephrologist practicing in Houston described this cascade to her patients using a metaphor that stuck with many of them. She said, "Imagine you have a team of 20 workers carrying a heavy load. 5 retire. Now 15 carry the same weight. That's manageable. But if you also make the load heavier every day, that's what excess sodium does. Those 15 burn out faster. Then 10 carry the heavier load. Then 7. Then 4. And eventually the work simply cannot get done. If you are over 60, or if you are caring for an elderly loved one, this information could genuinely be life-saving, not dramatic, not exaggerated. The National Kidney Foundation has stated plainly that dietary sodium reduction is one of the single most impactful steps an older adult can take to preserve remaining kidney function. This is not fringe advice. This is frontline nephrology. Because kidney damage is so quiet in its early stages, many seniors miss the subtle clues. Here are signs worth paying attention to. Persistent puffiness around the eyes in the morning, not the kind from a bad night's sleep, the kind that lingers, that looks slightly waterlogged. When kidneys lose filtering capacity, fluid and sodium accumulate, and gravity pools that extra fluid in loose tissue around the eyes overnight. Swelling in the ankles, feet, or lower legs, especially by evening. You press a thumb into your shin and the dent stays for several seconds. This is called pitting edema, and it frequently signals that your kidneys are struggling to manage fluid balance. Urine that appears foamy or bubbly, not from the force of the stream, but a persistent froth that sits on the surface. That foam often indicates protein leaking through damaged kidney filters. Fatigue that doesn't match your activity level. When kidneys underperform, waste products build in the bloodstream. One of those waste products, urea, creates a pervasive, heavy tiredness that sleep doesn't resolve. Frequent nighttime urination, waking 2, 3, 4 times to use the bathroom. Damaged kidneys lose their ability to concentrate urine effectively, producing more dilute urine in higher volumes, particularly at night. A metallic taste in the mouth or persistent loss of appetite. Waste accumulation changes how food tastes. Some patients describe it as chewing aluminum foil. Others simply stop feeling hungry without understanding why. And finally, elevated blood pressure that becomes increasingly difficult to control with medication. When kidneys deteriorate, they release hormones that drive blood pressure higher, creating a worsening loop that resists pharmaceutical intervention. If any of these sound familiar, please mention them to your physician and specifically ask for a kidney function panel. A simple blood test measuring creatinine and calculating your estimated glomerular filtration rate combined with a urine test checking for albumin, a specific protein, can reveal kidney health with remarkable clarity. Early detection changes outcomes dramatically. Reducing sodium does not mean eating bland, joyless food. That is the myth that stops people from even trying. A nephrologist and renal dietitian working together at Johns Hopkins published a patient guide that reframed the entire conversation. Their central message was this: you are not removing flavor. You are replacing one source of flavor with dozens of better ones. Here is what that looks like in practice. First, and this delivers the biggest immediate impact, cook more meals from whole, unprocessed ingredients. Fresh vegetables, fresh or frozen unseasoned meats, dried beans, plain rice and pasta, whole potatoes. These foods contain minimal natural sodium. When you control the cooking, you control the sodium. A home-cooked chicken breast seasoned with garlic, black pepper, rosemary, and a squeeze of lemon contains a fraction of the sodium found in its deli counter counterpart. Second, become a deliberate label reader. Turn the package over, find the nutrition facts panel, look at the sodium line, compare brands. The variation is staggering. One brand of canned tomatoes might contain 380 milligrams per serving. The low-sodium version of the exact same product from the same company might contain 50. Same tomatoes, same flavor when cooked into a sauce with herbs, vastly different impact on your kidneys. Third, rinse your canned goods, canned beans, canned vegetables. Running them under cold water for 30 seconds drains away up to 40% of the added sodium. It takes half a minute and costs nothing. Fourth, build a spice arsenal: cumin, smoked paprika, turmeric, oregano, thyme, lemon zest, fresh ginger, crushed red pepper flakes, garlic powder, not garlic salt, garlic powder. These ingredients deliver complexity and depth that salt alone never provided. Many patients who commit to this transition for 3 to 4 weeks report that heavily salted food actually begins tasting harsh and one-dimensional to them. The palate genuinely recalibrates. Fifth, approach restaurant meals strategically. Ask for sauces and dressings on the side. Choose grilled over fried. Request that the kitchen season lightly. Many restaurants will accommodate this without hesitation. When eating out feels unavoidable, balance it by keeping your other meals that day particularly low in sodium. Sixth, stay well hydrated with plain water. Adequate hydration helps your kidneys flush sodium more efficiently. For most older adults, 6 to 8 glasses throughout the day is a reasonable target, though your doctor may adjust this if you have specific heart or kidney conditions already. Seventh, and this one matters more than people realize, talk to your pharmacist about the sodium content in your medications. Effervescent tablets, certain antacids, and some prescription formulations contain surprisingly significant amounts of sodium. One popular over-the-counter heartburn tablet dissolved in water delivers over 500 milligrams per dose. If you take that twice daily, you've consumed a third of your sodium budget before any food crosses your lips. These are not radical changes. They are quiet, steady adjustments. And compounded over weeks and months, they take measurable pressure off your kidneys. A quick but important note, many people reach for salt substitutes, those products marketed as sodium-free alternatives. Most of them replace sodium chloride with potassium chloride. For the general population, potassium chloride can be a reasonable swap. However, for anyone with existing kidney disease or reduced kidney function, potassium substitutes can be dangerous. Compromised kidneys struggle to excrete potassium efficiently, and elevated blood potassium, a condition called hyperkalemia, can cause serious cardiac rhythm disturbances. Before switching to any salt substitute, have a conversation with your physician. A quick potassium level check and kidney function assessment will tell you whether it's safe for your specific situation. Never assume a product labeled healthy alternative is automatically safe for aging kidneys. Let's bring this full circle. Sodium is not exotic, it is not rare. It is the most consumed kidney-stressing substance in our daily diet, and it operates in silence. For adults over 60, whose kidneys are already working with fewer nephrons, thinner margins, and less resilience, chronic excess sodium is not a minor dietary concern. It is a legitimate, measurable threat to long-term kidney function. But here's the hopeful part, and I want you to hold on to this. Kidney damage from sodium excess, when caught early, responds to change. Reducing sodium intake lowers blood pressure, decreases proteinuria, slows nephron loss, and in many cases stabilizes kidney function for years. The National Kidney Foundation, the American Heart Association, and nephrologists across the country agree, this single dietary modification carries outsized protective power. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to eliminate sodium entirely. Your body requires a small amount to function. You simply need to become aware, become intentional, and make consistent choices that respect what your kidneys can handle at this stage of life. Your kidneys carried you for 6, 7, 8 decades without complaint. They filtered tens of thousands of gallons of blood without asking for recognition. The least we can do, the most loving thing we can do, is lighten their load for the years ahead. If this information resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel. We release new senior health content regularly, and every video is built on current medical guidance delivered in plain, honest language. Share this video with someone you care about, a spouse, a sibling, a friend who reaches for that salt shaker at every meal. Sometimes a 10-minute video changes a 20-year trajectory. Drop a comment below and tell me, were you surprised by any of the sodium amounts we mentioned today? I read every single comment, and your experiences help shape the topics we cover next. Take care of those kidneys. They've been taking care of you longer than you know.